Okay, so it's time to learn a little bit more about ACL. You should be having a bit of a play with this product to try and figure out and understand it yourself, okay? You can't just go through and click like I click and see that the tools produce the same numbers and say, yes, I know how this all works, because you don't. You need to make some mistakes. You need to go into this and have a look. If you delete it all, you know what? It's very easy. Ask us, we'll give you another sample file, or it's just on Blackboard for you to download. So that's all good. You can't kill it. There's nothing in here that is precious that can't be deleted. But let's have a look. One of the things we've got down here is our browser, a navigator, and we can go down between tables. Now, I'm looking at this AP Trans table. I want to know something more about it, which I really should get a bit of awareness of what this thing's about if I'm going to analyse it. One quick thing I can do is take a look at the table layout. So to achieve that, I go up. Here's my table. I've opened it. If I go up to the very top, here is my edit table layout. This will tell me what the table's made up of. If I click on that, you'll see here that I've got all of the columns in our table. This bit here is the relevant bit. Okay. Down here is what this thing looks like in ASCII, underlying file. I'll go back to the table options if I can. Just close that and reopen it. Save changes. Do not do that. Open that back up. Here's invoice amount. Invoice amount is a title, the category N, so its type is numeric. So that's a number. Invoice date is date, time. ASCII is text field. Now you can't run mathematical operations on text fields. Same with product number. Quantity is a small number, and unit cost is another number. Vendor number is another ASCII. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, if I count invoice date as numbers, things that I can probably run something like variance or standard deviation on. So going back to our main analytics window, what I can do is go to data, go to analyze, and here's my statistics. Now I click that. Even though I've got vendor number highlighted, it's only going to give me back the columns that are relevant for statistics. So in this exercise, it says run statistics on each of the 4 available fields with the standard deviation box checked. 1, hold down my shift key. Okay, so I'd hold my shift key down and click on all of those to give me the list of all the numbers. Here's my standard deviation. So here's a little box that it's referring to. Now that's going to give me the standard deviation, the distribution of these numbers. Remember I said before about it being skewed? Well, we're about to perhaps see what our skewing looks like. Now remember, we can filter this. So we could tell it we just want the first 100 or whatever condition. So for sampling, we're going to take the whole thing. It's not a very big table. It's 102 records long. We could send this to a file, okay, so a text file that we could name, or we could send it to a printer. We're just going to send it to a screen, which is the default. So go back to here. Got all 4 columns. Click OK. There we get our results. Okay, so we can see a summary of all of our statistics. Again, we get for invoice amount the highest and the lowest, but then we get some quartile type information, stepping it in from the lowest to the highest. We get the quartile ranges. Okay. Invoice date, we get the range. We've got invoice amount, the standard deviation is there, $6,609. This is information we've already had. There's that top one with the 56,000. This is information we've already got from our previous 2, but we're getting much more of it now, which may or may not fill you with joy. So you probably run the other ones to get your head around it. This is one you'd probably run to put in a file or a report for a record. Describe your audit direction to specific invoices based on the results of statistics. So look, here we have a bunch of big numbers. We know that there are no zeros, there's no negative invoices, which is one way to try and show things are balanced out. You take money out of the till, but you put a negative invoice through. Who looks for a negative invoice? A negative invoice shouldn't exist, it should be positive. We can see here that we don't have that, so that's all good. if we think about confidence intervals, standard deviations, there's Chebyshev's rule, 1.96 standard deviations from the mean in both directions is about $13,000 from the mean. So if we use that idea of standard deviations, we can tell if we go, here's our standard deviation of 6609. If we multiply that by 1.96, approximately, it's going to be about $12,500. So most of the transactions are well within that normal boundary, but there are a couple that are at the higher end here, very much outside of that range. So I'm probably going to direct someone to take a look at that. What we do is we take the average range, positive, negative totals, ABS. Give me the average. This here should be the average, but let me just check that. Invoice amount, analyze. That didn't tell that to me. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to go back into my analyze statistics. And do that again. Hold the shift key down. Going to get the median and the mode this time. Here's our median. Oh, the mode doesn't exist. Here's the average here. So 2,700 plus our 13,000. So anything small is well within that 1.96. Anything high, I add 13,000 roughly to 2,731, and I can see that I've got a range roughly around 16,000 or below. So I'm probably interested in those transactions that are above that 1.96, because the others are all expected. That's an average distribution. But the high ones that are at the outside, so our highest statistic over here, 56 is definitely an outlier. Our normal bill is something like $2,700, and here's one for 56. I'm going to take a long, hard look at that one. There's our transaction dates. We've got the same thing going on down there for all of them. Unit costs, again, if I take the mean, which is 14.92, the standard deviation is 27, so 14 plus 27. If I take, roughly, if I double 27, 1.96 by 27, I'm going to get about 50, so 64, 65. And anything above 65 might be worth taking a look at, roughly. And we can see we've got some of those down here in our range. So it's all giving us a bit of direction as to what we need to do. So we'd probably definitely audit the ones outside of that bell curve, that statistical analysis, that 95% confidence interval, and we would go off and audit in particular very closely the ones that are quite the outlier. That's really that.